Hey YouTube, it's ShryphonX here. Today we're going to be talking about One Piece Chapter 1166. Like and subscribe for more content. Did this chapter just hints that Rocks is Buggy's father too? One Piece Chapter 1166, full spoilers. The magazine cover for the final 2025 issue of Weekly Shonen Jump officially gave Rocks D. Xebec his colors, which might have fueled a popular fan theory. This chapter has 19 pages, including the color spread. Editor's note: at the end of the battle, this chapter is another special reader request. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, and Chopper are eating roasted sweet potatoes in a forest with Yamato, Otama, and Shinobu after the Wano group gathers fallen leaves. The Rocks portion of the Loki flashback has now taken up 13 total chapters. Rocks D. Xebec's official colors. Is Rocks Buggy's father too? We also officially got the official colors for Rocks D. Xebec in the magazine cover. He has two-toned hair, predominantly white. This could be reflective of his son Teach being they, meaning multiple people in the same body. However, it's also possible that this hair color is another hint that Xebec could be the father of Buggy as well. His wanted poster in Chapter 1155, The Rocks Pirates, has him sticking his tongue out just like Buggy did for his Yonko poster. Ever since we finally got a look at his face in Chapter 1154, Can't Even Die, many fans have considered the strong possibility that the current Yonko Buggy is another of Xebec's sons due to similar facial expressions and intended parallel. In the recent SBS Volume 113, released on November 4th, 2025, Oda finally confirmed what the Vivre Card Encyclopedia hinted at through Queen's personal timeline in 2024. This revelation was set up early through the parallel imagery of the covers for Volume 39 and 93, almost coinciding with the message they wanted to convey, even down to their volume numbers. The similarity in poses between Rocks and Buggy on their wanted posters is already a strong indication. But now we have concrete proof of Buggy's hair color. While Marshall D. Teach has consistently been depicted with black hair in all material, he was still identified as Xebec's son, while Eris was never shown to have black hair. However, Buggy, known for his striking bright blue hair, was also the same age as Shanks during the God Valley incident. The question arises, if Buggy is indeed Xebec's son, where was he and how did he end up separated from his parents? More importantly, if he was Xebec's son, how does this fit into the timeline? Did Xebec engage in infidelity with Eris? Or was Eris capable of conceiving a child by then, but that child was separated when the Celestial Dragons rounded up the Davy clan? We still need more answers, but the connection between Buggy and Rocks has gained significant traction and is gaining more evidence by the day. The chapter begins with Xebec lying on the ground, fully restored to his senses and still alive despite the overwhelming attacks from Garp and Roger. By this point, Roger and Garp have already left the battlefield, likely heading away to rest and leave the doomed island behind. Right now, Xebec is internally monologuing, realizing that despite everything, he is still alive. While Xebec's advanced Conqueror's Haki provided him with a solid defense, it's possible that he survived the critical mass combo due to his possible Buccaneer heritage, as we discussed earlier. Suddenly, Garling, Summers, and Maffy approach Rocks, but they hesitate to finish him off. Garling instructs Summers to check if Xebec is dead, but Summers refuses. Consequently, all three Holy Knights proceed together. Eventually, Garling raises his sword and stabs it into Xebec's body. Was Xebec rendered mortal after defeat? Or did Garling apply Advanced Conqueror's Haki to finish him off? Considering that Advanced Conqueror's Haki negates Immortal's regeneration, the critical mass attack must have nullified the effects of Domi Reversi on Xebec's body, leaving him mortal and susceptible to normal killing. As this happens, Xebec monologues to himself, hoping that Garp and Roger have left the island as they should not die. This demonstrates his respect for the two men who were once his rivals, a rivalry that Garp and Roger also built together, all because of this encounter where they were forced to put down a fellow legend. Xebeck's final words were gratitude for the two men, two different bearers of the will of D, for stopping his rampage and ensuring the survival of his family. However, now that he has passed away, he will never be able to see them again. Meanwhile, Gabon and Rayleigh rescue Roger and Garp, respectively, seemingly carrying the two large men with less effort while running away. Rayleigh asks Gabon why they didn't rescue Xebeck, but Gabon replies that Xebeck was the enemy. The two only knew that Xebeck suddenly went on a rampage, not that it was Emu's doing. Eventually, the entire God Valley would sink into the ocean. But what if it wasn't the Marine battleship cannons? Maybe they were just chasing after the pirates. What if the cause was Garp and Roger's final combined attack, which could have caused a sky split and conjured a massive thunderstorm? Considering how much damage the island took already from the battle royale, this is likely one of the few times Emu didn't need ancient weapons or buster calls to cause a genocide. Just letting the pirates and D's take each other out was enough. The narration for the end of the God Valley incident reads, "It would never be recorded in the pages of history. Like a stage curtain coming down, the island crumbled and was swallowed by a thick fog." This is the summary of the little-known God Valley incident. However, after a brief moment of silence, countless branching and enormous bolts of lightning split the heavens. And with that, several new tales began. This is where we get the chapter title. The God Valley incident felt like an encapsulation of the Void Century itself, erasing the atrocities of Emu, the celestial dragons, and the world government. We witness Garp and Roger returning to their respective sides, with a sleeping Roger striking a striking resemblance to his future son, Ace. Within this double spread, Whitebeard and Charlotte Linlin have taken their separate paths, while Kaido takes flight as a dragon. Dragon himself observes the scene from the marine ship he was on in the previous chapter, which was drenched in rain. Baby Shanks remains asleep in the treasure box, unknowingly transported by the Roger pirates. Kuma is being tended to by Ivankov and Ginny. Young Teach looks on innocently while his mother holds him, and her face remains hidden, just like how she was introduced in Chapter 1159, The Island of Fate. This revelation opens one half of the mystery, the circumstances surrounding Eris's death. Was the death of Teach's mother the cause of his sleepless condition? We may uncover the answer in the future, possibly from Blackbeard himself. Shank's adoption, meanwhile, Roger returns to the Oro Jackson. Shaki is snuggling up to Rayleigh, and the sight of them together and surrounded by treasure brings a smile of relief to Roger's face. This behavior is remarkably reminiscent of Luffy's. After his wounds are treated, Roger hears an unusual noise emanating from a treasure box. Curious, he opens the box and discovers a baby Shanks radiating a smile. This page is identical to the one we observed in the film Red Special Volume and the movie itself, making those rare instances of film material canon. Shiki's existence is another peculiar case. Although his character is canonized through a special chapter, Chapter 0, and a mention in Chapter 530 during the Impel Down arc, the film's existence is not. Garp's disgust with Sengoku the news of the Rocks Pirates' disbandment spreads worldwide, with many citizens cheering on due to their notorious reputation. However, the narrator reminds us that this information has been tampered with. Despite this, the paper, likely due to the intervention of a young Morgans, highlighted Garp's role as the hero of the Marines. When Garp wakes up, he is upset with the news and wants to see Morgans. It's important to remember that Morgans at this point is only 15 years old and was just a rising reporter. Some of you One Piece fans might need to consider getting a job too. Anyway, Morgans, or rather, the World Economy newspaper, was silenced with hush money from the world government regarding the incident. In spite of Emu being knocked out of his wits by Garp, Garp still receives full credit. This is similar to what the world government wanted from Smoker for the Arabasta incident. Luffy doesn't receive credit because it would be detrimental to the government, which allowed their own warlord of the sea, Crocodile, to sabotage Arabasta from within. This is also why Fujitori's apology to King Riku of Dressrosa was scandalous for Sakazuki and the world government. Garp was the perfect cover, and he was fully aware of the potential mess that being the hero of the Marines could cause. He would be the most respected Marine, expected to uphold the false principles of justice promoted by the world government, while also serving as true justice to protect the Marines from every threat. Sengoku advises Garp to stop arguing and points out that this is clearly the work of the world government, bribing the WMP. Sengoku reminds Garp that the world government and the Marines are massive organizations. Counting the allied nations, the Marines have millions of personnel worldwide. This means Garp cannot keep track of everything. If it was Sengoku who discovered any suspicious activity, he would simply turn a blind eye, feeling like a helpless cog. However, Garp rightly calls out Sengoku for what he is, a promotion-seeking fool, and vows that if Sengoku, his best friend, becomes a corrupt official, he will be the one to bring him down. Sengoku asserts that yelling from the bottom won't change anything. Despite this threat to his life, Sengoku expresses his happiness to have a friend like Garp around who will not abandon the Marines. In response to Sengoku's earlier remark, Garp reveals that he has a lot to protect at the bottom, not just from pirates, but also from the world government itself. Harald's incident and Loki's dream while traveling across the sea, Harald encounters a giant plundering a human town. Tired of witnessing violence from his kin, Harald unleashes a barrage of punches on the giant in a fit of rage. However, this was not just a personal dream of bringing Elbaf to the outside world. Harald feels guilty that his efforts for peace resulted in him not helping his friend Xebec. Consequently, he vows never to forgive any giant who stands in his way. Now fully committed to his pursuit of peace, Harald is determined to deal with it severely. This decision mirrors Garp's choice to prioritize the Marines, even if it meant executing Ace. In contrast to Garp, who chose to rebel against Emu and paid the price of being an admired hero, Harald only assisted Xebec in escaping his grasp. However, in his commitment to peace, he was even more feared by the world of humans as a monster. We also witnessed Loki's reaction to Xebec's death. Loki sought to join the Rox pirates because he believed Rox was the sun god Nika. However, Rox revealed that he was not a god who sought to destroy the world. Instead, he was a pirate who aimed to conquer the world in order to change it. He had witnessed the world suffer 800 years of humiliation and secrecy under Emu's reign. Garp releases Dragon. We cut to the underground detention center in Marine headquarters, where the first interaction between Dragon and Garp in person takes place. Dragon is locked in a cell, and Garp visits him. This scene is reminiscent of the scene before Ace's execution, where Garp visited him on Impel Down. Dragon simply states his intention to quit the Navy, and Garp responds with a simple yeah. Dragon also expresses his hatred for his father, and Garp repeats his statement, highlighting the distance between their relationship. Immediately, Garp throws the key to Dragon's cell, and the scene ends. It is evident why Garp freed Dragon with only a few words: guilt. Garp was a vice admiral and hero of the Marines. As the price for his decision to stand with his fellow Marines and protect them from both evil pirates and their evil master, Emu, he became their hero. He was the one to stand by them all the way so that Emu wouldn't manipulate them and they wouldn't lose their justice. By becoming real justice to Marines who were taught to follow the government's orders, Garp would also be the face of that oppressive system and thus earn the wrath of his son. Garp knew that Dragon had done the right thing to free the slaves and threaten a fellow Marine, But he was angry not only at him leaving his side, losing a family member and support system, but at himself for not being there for his son in his time of need. So, the least he could do was to allow his son the freedom to make his choices, even if those choices meant that father and son would become enemies in the battlefield. Garp's choice essentially created the Revolutionary Army, as we cover here. Harald's sacrifice for the greater good. Sometime later, we see Harald ready to set sail on Elbaf's coast, where he bids farewell to Ida, Gerald, and his friends. He tells them that he has made up his mind, essentially to sacrifice himself after the earlier incident. While on one knee to reach their height, he tells his two sons, Hadrudin and Loki, that they are his sons and loves them both. He hopes that they would work together for Elbaf's sake. In spite of Harald's efforts, as stated in chapter 1154, Loki had lost faith and love at just a few months old. So, these words didn't resonate much in his hardened young heart. Because of the incident earlier, Harald was also seen as a violent brute, furthering giant racism as he is their king. Therefore, he decided to go to Marineford, the original headquarters of the Marines, to directly speak with the world government. Here, he asked the officials of the world government to atone for over 1,000 years of sin. In the final double-page spread of the chapter, Harald reveals his torn-off horns and kneels down, presenting them as an offering while the stubs on his head bleed profusely. This act of self-sacrifice is Harald's sincere attempt to earn the world's respect, even offering himself as a slave to the world government, a group of humans. Harald and Xebec formed an unexpected alliance, two friends born for bloodlines deemed evil and sinful by the world government. Harald understands that his impulsive actions could make the giants appear as a threat, potentially inviting further horror into the world. However, by choosing to submit, he has committed two terrible acts. First, he has humiliated himself and his country, tarnishing giant honor. While some may dismiss personal pride as insignificant, in reality, this lack of self-respect invites abuse from a party that gains more power through this submission. Second, he has made himself and his country vulnerable to exploitation. If a king would offer himself as a slave, his country and its agenda for peace would lose credibility. Harald faces a similar dilemma to Odin. For the sake of ensuring the citizens of Wano can live rather than be utterly killed and exploited by Kaido, he chose to humiliate himself and be called the Foolish Lord, so that Wano would only remember him as a foolish rebel who lost his mind. Harald's fate will be the same for the people of Elbaf, a once proud and strong king who has become a coward for something as insignificant as peace. However, Odin did buy time and ensure the people of Wano were less affected by Kaido and Orochi. The question remains, did Harald truly extend Elbaf 38 years more of peace? Or will something else occur before his untimely death 24 years later? In the final panel of the chapter, we glimpse Emu's eyes. Was Emu delighted by this sign, or was he concerned by Harald's sincerity? Perhaps something he had witnessed 800 years ago? Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe for more content. ShryphonX out.